I'm not gonna lie to you, football isn't the same. It's a thought I've had for a long time, however I hadn't pinpointed the reason why, until now. You see, when I was a kid, football just felt more exciting. It was like a movie with plot twist after plot twist, and most of these came during the transfer windows. That feeling of finding out that a shock, blockbuster move had taken place is one that I hadn't realised that I'd forgotten until now. And no, it's not because I got older, or because I've lost interest in the sport, or because there are less big signings now. It's down to one man, Fabrizio Romano. At least that's what most of the football community says nowadays. If you have any interest in football, you will know who Fabrizio Romano is. For those of you who don't know, he's a world-renowned football journalist who mastered the art of social media. He has 2.4 million subs on YouTube, 23.4 million followers on Twitter, and 33.8 million on Instagram. And as I mentioned earlier, many blame him for killing the hype around transfers. However, this wasn't always the case. In fact, when he first started gaining popularity, he was one of the most loved figures in the industry. This is because he brought something new to the table. He engaged his audience with his easy to read tweets and memorable catchphrases, such as his now iconic "Here we go," which confirms the signing in question. Now, you didn't have to consume the dodgy and mostly unreliable rumours from the tabloids to gain an insight into your club's future star, but you could just load up Twitter and Fabrizio would be there. Now is a good time to state that Fabrizio rarely ever gets things wrong. When he gives the "Here we go," 99% of the time the deal is all but confirmed. And as Fabrizio's audience grew exponentially, he'd deservedly begin to gain financial returns at a similar rate. In 2022, Elon Musk bought Twitter, and in the following year, he'd make it so that verified accounts could be paid for their tweets. And the Italian journalist, who is now one of the most influential accounts on the platform, would use this to his advantage. Later that year, the first sign of the tide turning out of his favour would occur. In 2023, Fabrizio would announce Messi as the winner of the elusive Ballon d'Or a whole week before the ceremony. This came as a shock to everyone, as what was once the highlight for football fans and players' years due to its mystery and tension until the final announcement and the conversational debate it caused in the approaching days had been diminished to a single tweet. Now, you could say that it was his job to report on what he had been told by one of his sources, which is a fair argument, but what wasn't were the multiple tweets that followed, which just repeated the fact that Messi was going to win without adding any new or useful information. In a way, it's genius. The guy was getting millions and millions of impressions, which of course translated into cash. But my god was it frustrating, and it genuinely killed the hype for the Ballon d'Or that year, for me and many others. For the first time in my life, I didn't watch the Ballon d'Or ceremony, and instead, I watched Speed's livestream of it because him trolling players was more entertaining than the actual one itself, because we already knew the outcome. This habit of tweeting 1,000 times about the same thing would continue. And nowadays, when Fabrizio first communicates that a club is opening talks with another for one of their players, you can expect an update every other minute on what that player had for breakfast and what time he went to the shops, etc. So by the time the transfer actually gets the "Here we go," we're not even excited by it. In fact, at this point, it's more thrilling to see a deal collapse in its final stages. That is if your club is not involved, of course. Whether we like it or not, expecting the unexpected is healthy and crucial for maintaining the audience's entertainment. A great example of this just occurred in the NBA. My European arse woke up one Sunday morning only to see this on my phone. In the months prior, the NBA's ratings had actually been on a decline. Interest was at an all-time low, and the sport just seemed stagnant. And this one tweet brought it all back. You had all the players react to it in real time on social media, as if they were one of us. Everyone was talking about the Luka Doncic trade. And on the week of the Super Bowl, all eyes were on the NBA.
This has got to be the first time ever that the NBA is leading the sports discussion over the Super Bowl, right? Like the
So
big,
much so.
like Luka and the Luka trade's leading Sports Center, right? It's not the Super Bowl. It's kind of wild.
Well, it is wild because this is the biggest week in the biggest sport in this country.
Yeah.
And at least for the past 3 days, the main topic of conversation has been NBA related. Like the biggest headline coming out of Super Bowl media availability on some level yesterday was Patrick Mahomes'
thoughts
comments
right?
about Luka Doncic. We'll get there.
Oh,
I
yeah,
promise.
for sure.
We'll get there. But yes, it is interesting that over the past couple of days, certainly the NBA has been the bigger and more interesting and compelling story.
This is what football needs. We need drama, we need suspense, and we need surprise. And before you ask, Shams Charania, the man who announced the Luka Doncic trade, is almost an equivalent to Fabrizio Romano, except for the fact that he will only tweet about a deal or a trade when it is 100% done, making it a complete bombshell. Fabrizio has also been heavily criticised for his constant tweets about Mason Greenwood. Now, we all know what the Marseille striker allegedly did, and most that have any sort of morality have stopped supporting or investing in his career. Quite frankly, the fact that he's still playing at a high level is baffling and is a whole other topic for another video in itself. But one man seems to have forgotten what he was accused of. Or maybe he hasn't forgotten and he just chooses to ignore it because he knows that when he tweets about the Englishman, he's going to get many interactions from people arguing about him in the comments. And what does that translate to? Money. And you can't deny that Fabrizio knows what he's doing. Not only did he make the every 3-second updates on Mason Greenwood's transfer to Marseille last summer, which again you could excuse by saying that it's his job to report on the signing, but he continues to make updates on his career that no one except for incels on Twitter asked for. For example, quoting Greenwood's manager at Marseille, De Zerbi, saying, "I'm happy to see him scoring, so it will all the controversy in the media." What does that even mean? My guy, there's controversy and there's being accused of SA and more heinous shit. It's just not a good look. And it just gives off the impression that he puts no thought into his tweets at all. And he just puts out whatever will get people interacting. Like, you're telling me if any other player had won Getafe Player of the Year, he would have tweeted about it. Come on now. Like many, I really respected Fabrizio, but it's things like these, which he has started doing since Elon bought the platform, that just give the audience the impression that he's just another soulless and money-hungry guy that wants to capitalize on anything he can do to increase his popularity and wealth. And look, I'm not saying that Fabrizio's consciously supporting Greenwood. I'm just saying that he might be being a bit ignorant or careless, which, you know, is fine. Like, it's far from the worst thing on that platform. So, to round the video off, let's ask again, is he really the problem? Is he the reason as to why football has lost some of its magic and spark? Maybe, but we can't look past many of the other faults that have occurred which have also contributed to this. For example, the new rule that the Premier League recently announced, stating that referees could punish any celebration they deemed to be provocative, meaning that players can't even banter with opposing players and fans anymore, leaving them more disengaged from the audience and leaving us more disengaged from them. Because God forbid that the player who's been receiving abuse from fans for 90 minutes sticks it back at them out of pure emotion when he scores a last-minute winner. So whether we should hold Fabrizio Romano accountable for ruining or at least dampening the excitement from transfers, that's up to you. But we should also hold the establishments accountable for just doing too much to try and please everyone, because in return, they'll just end up pleasing no one.